Hey, what is up, guys? It's your boy KCM, What Ifs. Today we are going to be reading the sealed kunai, or what if Naruto had his true potential sealed away. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. It had been roughly 3 days since Naruto's performance at the stadium against all of the Genin. Tsunade let him be for the time being because he deserved the rest. That was one reason. The other reason was that she wouldn't have him doing any more D-rank missions with Team 7. And they couldn't go on them anyway, seeing as how Naruto had put Sasuke Uchiha on the shelf with the butchering job he had done on Sasuke's arm. This was part of the arrangement made between Tsunade and Kakashi. Naruto was no longer considered a member of Team 7. It was a good idea, with Naruto having just destroyed Sasuke and Sakura in combat almost effortlessly. The team dynamics, what little there was in the first place, would have been screwed. She proposed to have him go solo and float between teams, either more experienced teams of Chunin and Junin to get field experience, or the younger Jinin teams to give him some experience in leading teams. This actually kind of worked out in Naruto's favor. For all of his want to get promoted, the fact was that, while he was en route, he was used primarily for solo missions, things that only had him worrying about his own back and what he had to do to survive. This would allow him to learn how to fight in conjunction with others. He needed to learn how to work in a team and how to keep his comrades alive when they were with him. He couldn't argue that he wasn't ready to lead a squad of ninjas at Junin yet. He knew that. So, on the morning that our story picks up from, Naruto ambled his way through the streets of Konoha on his way to the Hokage Tower to get himself a mission. The looks he ended up getting from the civilians on his usual path were the usual looks of apathy and sneers that he usually got. But when Naruto turned his own eyes onto them, they turned away from him. Naruto sighed as he drew closer to the tower. Upon entering, he made his way to the office of Tsunade, which was filled with the other Konoha genin he had fought. Minus Sasuke, all of their Junin sensei, and the genin team from Sunagakure, Naruto raised an eyebrow at all of the people in the room. He looked at Tsunade. So what do you got for me today, Bea-chan? Tsunade threw the paperweight on her desk at Naruto, who just ducked it with a smirk. She narrowed her eyes at him. Disrespectful brat. I called you here so that you could begin getting to work helping out with the surplus of missions that we have. She looked at all of the genin in the room. Things are still kind of shaky after the invasion, but we can't turn away any of the work that comes into us. Not only is the money necessary, but we need to keep up with the view that we are strong. So genin, like all of you, will be getting higher-ranked missions more often. Tsunade motioned for Naruto to come forward. You will start off with your Chunin duties today. You will be leading one of these teams on a C-ranked mission today. Seeing as you will be the highest-ranked member on whatever squad you end up taking, you will be the leader. Naruto pointed at the Suna genin. So why are they here? And can I pick them? Tsunade nodded. You can pick them if that's what you want. Though they aren't really a team for a mission, more like they are the mission. Naruto thought to himself for a moment. Okay, I'll go with the Suna kids. I don't really feel like fighting bandits or something right now anyway. So whatever I'm doing with them, I'll take that one. He turned to face them, and motioned for them to follow him closer to the desk before he stopped in front of Tsunade. So what's the mission? Tsunade handed them a scroll from the C-ranked pile. The main reason that the Kazekage's children have been in Konoha for so long has been mostly as some sort of collateral while we begin talks for the treaty between our villages. Negotiations are firmly underway, so we are returning them to their village. You will escort them there and wait for Suna to finalize the treaty on their own side before you return with a scroll from them. He looked at her in confusion. This is C-ranked? Are you serious? It should at least be B. Oh well, whatever. Naruto scratched his head. So do I get a team for this or what? Tsunade shook her head. Naruto, they are a team. You plus them should be a match for pretty much anything that could attack you between here and there. Tsunade tossed Naruto a scroll that he caught wordlessly. Flying solo. Okay, I guess. Naruto pocketed the scroll and turned to his selected team. Alright. Do you guys have everything you need for the mission, or do we need to square away some time to get you restocked before we leave? The siblings traded looks as Temari spoke up. We're ready to go whenever you are. When do we go, Naruto? Naruto cringed when she said his name. Just Naruto is fine, Temari. I'm not much for the honorifics. He scratched his head nervously. Alright, if you guys are all ready to go, then let's head on out. No sense in wasting time. I'm sure you're all sick of staying here. As the other teams lined up to get their own assignments, Naruto led the Suna contingent out of the office and out towards the street. On their way out of the village, Naruto found that while the civilians didn't particularly like him due to his thorough dissection of the entire slew of genin the other day, the ninja higher in rank gave him some respect for it. As he walked towards the target gate, he got nods of acknowledgement from the Chunin he found out on patrol. The Jonin out with their genin teams or just some of the ninja out in general. As he made his way to the western gate, the perennial gatekeepers, Izumo and Kotetsu, got grins on their faces upon seeing Naruto and company make their way to the gate. Naruto walked up and revealed the mission scroll given to him by Tsunade, Chunin Naruto Uzumaki, with a mission to Sunagakure alongside the Kazekage's children. Kotetsu nodded and marked it down on the traffic ledger. The bandage-nosed shinobi chidingly elbowed Naruto. Hey kid, good stuff the other day at the stadium. You pretty much sleepwalked through all of those kids. Naruto shrugged as he wrote down his own signature on the page. Well, we couldn't use killing force on each other. I guess they were all holding back too, but they shouldn't have. God knows Sasuke didn't. For all of the good it did him. Naruto handed the papers back to the two Chunin and called for the Suna-Janin to leave with him. As the two Chunin watched him walk away from the village, Izumo chuckled. That kid's going to get promoted before us at this rate. Kotetsu yawned as he went back inside their booth. I don't really mind too much. Let a kid with some ambition move up in rank, I'll be fine right here. Izumo's sweat dropped in response to his partner's comment. So does that mean that you want to watch a gate for the rest of your career? You are one lazy bastard. Kotetsu gave a small smirk. Hey, it beats actually working for a living, doesn't it? Due to the fact that everyone here was an active ninja, they took to jumping through the trees as their method of travel. Naruto, being bored as all get out, decided to make some small talk as they made their way out of the country. So how'd Konoha treat you guys? You all look fine if you ask me, Kankuro grumbled somewhat. We wouldn't have had to stay at all if someone didn't jump us after the fight with Gaara. Naruto let a smirk play on his lips. Well, I told you all exactly what I was going to do. You weren't going to just leave, so I had to knock you all out. It's not my fault that you didn't watch your backs. Kankuro still kept his eyes narrowed at him. I still can't believe we lost so easily. You just clubbed us over the back of the head without us even noticing. Grinning back at the paint-wearing ninja, Naruto responded, I am very sneaky, sir. He dropped the grin from his face. How far is it to Suna? I've never been before. This was a lie. He had been to Suna before, but he really wanted to cover up the stuff he did en route around the people that didn't need to know about it unless the knowledge was necessary. Tamari moved closer in their formation to speak to him. From Konoha, Suna is about 3 days away if we keep at this speed. Naruto nodded and turned to face them. All right, we'll go for as long as you can all stand to travel. Don't worry about me, just yourselves. I might be capable of getting all the way to Suna without sleep myself. Kankuro and Tamari blinked blankly at that. Gaara didn't have energy to burn like that, though this kid did beat Gaara in his full transformation after all. It couldn't really be that far-fetched. Kankuro glanced back at Gaara and whispered to Naruto. Hey, Gaara says that you're like him. What exactly does that mean? Naruto looked back at him in a nonchalant manner. Oh, that. I have a bee shield inside of me like him. Naruto took note of the looks of shock on their faces minus Gaara. What? Did he not elaborate on what he meant when he said that? The two stunned siblings shook their heads. Tamari looked back at Gaara, who nodded in affirmation. She looked up at Naruto in confusion. Wait? Why don't you have any powers or transformations like Gaara? We probably wouldn't have even known if you two hadn't said anything. The blonde boy shrugged. I don't know. I can do some stuff with its chakra, but I don't really have any transformations or anything really scary like Gaara does to my knowledge. He then added under his breath. Unless you count the trigger. Kankuro put his nerves behind him. This kid isn't like Gaara. He won't flat out kill us for no reason. Stop being so scared of him. He's just like me or Tamari. So, which one do you have if I could ask? You know that Gaara has the Achibi no Shukaku. Oh, I have the Kyuubi in me. Naruto grinned at them all cheekily. But you shouldn't go around spreading that. It's an S-class secret in my village, no one my age knows about it. If you do, I might just have to pop up and kill you, no big deal. The mirth in his voice couldn't indicate if he was joking about that or not. The silence brought on by Naruto's proclamation was broken by Gaara of all people. How did you not end up like me? Naruto looked at Gaara dead in his eyes, and saw that he was genuinely curious about it. Well, first of all, I ended up making contact with the Kyuubi personally and hammering out a contract of sorts between us. It can't possess me. I can use its chakra when I need to. I let it see, hear, and feel what I do. There's other stuff too, but that is some of the big stuff. Gaara blinked. I've never tried that before. Shukaku kind of just runs rampant in my mind. Even now it wants me to kill you to get even. Naruto grinned at him. I'm so glad you've thought better of trying that. Yeah, the contract wasn't my idea though. It was someone else's. And you say you can't even get into your head safely to make contact without Shukaku fighting for control. Your seal must suck. The siblings all looked at each other before Temari spoke up. You know about seals? No. Naruto shook his head in the negative, but I was sealed by the fourth Hokage, who was the best. If I haven't heard of who did yours, then they must not be nearly as good. He then scratched his chin. That might be something to learn, though. He got a serious look on his face. But in all seriousness, don't go around telling people that I contain the Kyuubi. I have enough crap to deal with at home with just the adults knowing. If the kids my age are going to know, I'm going to tell them my damn self so that no one can warp their opinions. I was supposed to be a weapon like Gaara, but I ended up getting out of it somehow. Gaara's curiosity was piqued further by Naruto's words. You got out of it? What do you mean? Naruto rubbed his head sheepishly. Well, I was used for serious stuff. A lot of cloak and dagger operations, until 4 years ago when I ended up getting caught. The ones that discovered me ended up doing something to make me into that daft, loud, orange-wearing kid that you met at first. Fighting Gaara pulled my old killer instinct out. I thank you for that, and here we are now. Kankuro raised an eyebrow. You don't seem too much like a weapon to me. His sister nodded in response. You just seem like a really strong ninja. A kid. Naruto wagged his eyebrows at her. I'm a sentient weapon, you could say. I don't like being all dreary when I don't have to be. When we're like this, no real fighting going on, I can be normal, well as normal as a ninja like me can be anyway. When the fighting starts, I can just turn on the side of me that's a killer. It's kind of weird to explain. Gaara looked at Naruto, your teammate. The way you fought him in the stadium, I thought he was precious to you. You said you got strength from defending others, and yet you had no problems hurting him. Chuckles came from Naruto as he contemplated Gaara's comment. Well, maybe, but I don't really like him, so it doesn't really count that much. What I told you was true, but it was more like for the whole village than just my team. I don't even like my team. You don't like your team? Temari looked at him as if he was crazy. Then why are you on it? Why not get switched out? Naruto smiled. Well, seeing as how I'm currently doing this, it works out for me. Honestly, working with you guys so far has been more pleasant than my entire time on Team 7. No brooding, spoiled pretty boy breathing down my neck. No sensei that would rather read than pay attention to what's going on. And no pink-haired fangirl with bipolar syndrome and a hair trigger right hand. Yep, Temari-chan here is way more pleasant to be around as far as female company goes. Temari blushed while Kankuro snorted. Yeah, sure, kid. Just trade the hair color and the fist for a giant metal fan and you've got Temari. The girl in question looked back at her younger brother while clutching the fan on her back tightly. What, Kankuro? Could you repeat that for me? Kankuro rapidly shook his head while Naruto barked out a laugh. See? At least she gave you a warning. I usually didn't get those before Sakura tried to wail on me. Naruto noticed that Gaara had been staring at him for quite a while. What's wrong, Gaara? Do you need something? Gaara kept his eyes on Naruto. You are a very strange person, Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto grinned foxily at him. Well, I don't think you can talk, calling me strange. You look like you want to say something, though. Gaara's eyes turned back ahead as he broke eye contact with Naruto. It is nothing, Uzumaki. Naruto didn't believe him but let it slide, as he kept his group jumping through the trees. If nothing else, we should reach near the border before it gets too dark to proceed any further. A group of nods, and his focus was on their direction. As the day winded to a close in Konohagakure, Tsunade was still at her desk, going through the most unnecessary necessity every cage was stuck doing. Of course, I'm talking about paperwork. A knock at her door soon revealed Shizune. "Tsunade-sama, Kakashi is here to see you." Tsunade sighed, "Send him in." She flexed her wrist and hissed, "Damn brat dragging me back here. I bet he just wanted to punish me with all this writing on so many of these useless forms to cramp my wrist so I can't hit him anymore." Honestly, shouldn't I have an entire team of secretaries to handle all of the mundane crap? I am the Hokage after all. Shizune blinked. Note to self. Find out if I actually should be looking for secretaries for things like that. A yell of her name from Tsunade brought the black-haired girl back to earth. "Oh, I'm sending Kakashi in now, okay?" Tsunade motioned with her hand and Shizune disappeared from the door, Kakashi appearing in her stead with Sakura in tow. As they entered the room, Kakashi stood in front of Tsunade's desk. "Hokage-sama, you wanted to speak to me personally about Team 7? Tsunade nodded. "Yes, due to Naruto's promotion, and as a part of the arrangement made in case he won the entire series of bouts against the Genin, I'm taking him off of Team 7 effective immediately." Kakashi's visible eye went wide. "Hokage-sama, I'm aware that Naruto needs to work with others because of his new rank and everything, but why take him off of Team 7 completely?" Tsunade shook her head. "It's nothing that you've done, Kakashi. It's more along the lines of the team itself." She placed her chin on her hands. "Do you really think that after the little show that Naruto and the Uchiha put on in the stadium, things will ever be civil again?" The look on Kakashi's face showed his faith in the matter. Naruto has shown growth in maturity in leaps and bounds ever since the Chunin exam. I honestly believe that he can coexist with Sasuke and Sakura. A smirk appeared on the face of the buxom Hokage. "Kakashi, you worded that like it was Naruto who got smacked around the stadium." Just as quickly as it appeared, her smirk vanished. Sasuke was soundly beaten by Naruto, driven to the point that he felt the activation of Orochimaru's cursed seal was tolerable. "You did warn him not to do so, did you not?" Kakashi nodded. "Yes, I have, along with using the Chidori against comrades, but it seems he disregarded both." Sakura felt very small all of a sudden as she saw Tsunade speaking with her sensei, as if she was out of place, and indeed, she was. She wasn't even leaping to Sasuke's defense or anything till the Chidori was brought up. "But sensei, I saw Sasuke-kun's arm." "Sasuke may have tried to use Chidori, but what about Naruto? He did something to mangle Sasuke-kun's arm." Kakashi spoke up quickly before Tsunade could. "Sakura, the Chidori is an assassination technique used for only one thing: to kill." Sasuke, by using that, was saying that he had no qualms against killing Naruto. Naruto simply channeled elemental wind chakra to his blade and cut through the Chidori. With that kind of attack, if he really wanted to, Naruto could have cleaved Sasuke in two whenever he wanted if Sasuke was using Chidori. He fought to simply subdue. Sasuke was going for Naruto's life. Chiming in at that point was Tsunade. "Sasuke will heal within the next few weeks." Naruto didn't do anything permanent, but with him activating the cursed seal, I have to ask that you remain on simply D-ranked missions for the time being, until I can get Jiraiya to look at it himself again. He left right after Naruto's matches, and it will take some time to contact him again. Kakashi nodded. "Yes, Tsunade-sama. What about Team 7? Tsunade sighed and turned towards the window. "Well, with what has happened, I can't in good mind allow Naruto back onto your squad. At least not so soon. I'll find you a replacement in the meantime, and by the time Jiraiya gets here, you should have someone for your team." Kakashi nodded, of course. That was all I wanted to speak about, Tsunade-sama. Come on, Sakura. The masked Junin led his female student out of the office. As they walked out of the tower, Sakura spoke up. "What about Naruto Kakashi-sensei? He isn't on the team anymore." Kakashi looked at the setting sun. "No, I'm afraid he isn't." If he was then, he would be the superior officer to you and Sasuke would never accept that. His superiority complex would force him to fight any decision that Naruto would make in the field and hamper team effectiveness. And that's not even adding on to the fact that he would probably try to fight Naruto himself if he got the opportunity. No, this is for the best in this instance. Back on the trail to Suna, it was nightfall and Naruto halted progress for the evening to allow the others to rest. While sending out a clone to gather fish, Naruto had started a fire and had boiled some water for a few instant ramen cups. Hey, why not? While everyone ate, they all sat around the fire until finishing the meal. He looked at the siblings and tried talking to them again. So what happened to your sensei? The guy with the veil on his face. We didn't kill him, did we? Temari shook her head. Baki-sensei returned to Suna after the invasion failed. He was the one that found our fath. The Kazekage was killed before the invasion ever even happened. Naruto looked at the others and found that neither Kankuro nor Gaara had much emotion about the matter. So what happened, if you don't mind me asking? Kankuro answered him. Orochimaru had infiltrated our village and had been masquerading as the Kazekage for quite a while before the invasion. Naruto threw his ramen cup to the side. I knew about the invasion. I knew about the plan for Gaara and everything. Orochimaru had his shit planned for years. Kankuro scoffed at that. Well, if you knew then, why didn't you stop it or something? The grinning Chunin unnerved him. That's another secret that's even deeper than the whole Kyuubi thing. I will say that it's half of the reason that I ended up a loudmouth when the Chunin exams started. Again, I can't say thank you enough to Gaara for snapping me out of it. This confused Gaara as to why he was being thanked. Why thank me, Uzumaki? I tried to kill you and destroy your village. I don't understand. Naruto shook his chopsticks at Gaara chidingly before throwing them into the fire. But you didn't kill me or destroy anything, did you? All you ended up doing was giving me my fighter IQ back. That's why I'm grateful, because if you didn't do that, who knows how I might have ended up. I mean, did you see me beforehand? Naruto shivered. It gives me the creeps just thinking about it sometimes. That brought a round of laughs from the siblings minus Gaara. Temari was still curious about some things though. Naruto. You say you're a host like Gaara? Well, how were you treated? Gaara has had assassins after him since he was 6 years old. Naruto thought to himself for a moment before speaking. Well, it was kind of like him minus the assassinations for the most part. It was mostly people treating me like crap until I up and disappeared for a while. I just stopped caring for a while and stayed out of public. When I got older, nothing really changed. Even now, I'm just now starting to get some respect in Konoha. Gaara looked at him. How did you take it? His blonde fellow container shrugged. I had a few ways. First of all, like I said, I just stayed out of public. Another reason is because I was always busy. When I was a kid, I always had something to do to occupy my time. The last reason is because eventually some people actually started treating me like a real person. That was probably a big reason why. Naruto looked up at the moon, being acknowledged positively for being you is a powerful thing. When the people around you are just glad that you're alive, there's just something about that that just doesn't compare to most other things. Guys like me, and Gaara can relate to that. He lowered his head and noticed that all 3 siblings were giving him their undivided attention. Sweat dropping because he really had nothing else to say, Naruto stood up. Well, you can all get some sleep. I'll stay up and keep watch first. Gaara blocked Naruto's way with his sand. Uzumaki, I will keep watch for the night. I cannot sleep anyway, so it isn't inconvenient to me. Naruto looked at Gaara and smiled at him. Sure thing, Gaara. Thanks a lot then. All right, I'm going to go drain the lizard before I go to sleep. I'll be back in a flash. As Naruto walked away and Gaara left to find an area suitable for watching over the campsite for the night, Kankuro and Temari were stunned. Kankuro looked at Gaara walking away. Did Gaara just volunteer for night watch? He never did that before. Temari watched the direction Naruto went off in. I think it has to do with that Naruto guy. Gaara's been like this ever since he fought him, remember? He hasn't tried to or talked about killing anyone since then. As she watched him return to camp and pull out his sleeping things, she was more curious about the blonde Konoha ninja that had somehow calmed Gaara. The next couple of days found the group traveling from the woods to the desert with almost alarming transfer of landscape. The trip was pretty uneventful, with the exception of some dumb bandits that thought it would be a good idea to attack a group of ninjas. They took this opportunity to let Gaara let off some steam in the form of eradicating the lot of them in a wave of sand. Poor bastards never had a chance. As they traveled, they kept up the same routine as usual, with Naruto trying to engage them in conversations to get to know them better. With Kankuro, he pretty much let slide their introduction back before the Chunin exams and started off fresh. It didn't really take long for them to start hitting it off. Kankuro had a strange sense of humor, and when coupled with Naruto's dry wit and penchant for picking with people like Gaara, usually ending up with him getting thrown by an arm of sand by Gaara, much to Kankuro and strangely Gaara's amusement. Naruto took the time traveling with them to also flirt shamelessly with Temari. At first he simply took to answering her questions about how he lived, and what he was used to doing as a ninja, and asking her the same in turn, but that soon turned to him sidling up to her during breaks, and randomly commenting on her good looks and how he'd like to take her to some place called Ichiraku whenever she came back to Konoha during their travels. She didn't use her fan to brain him for 2 reasons. Because he did beat Gaara, and then still had enough energy to capture them and jump into the fray of the invasion, so she didn't really feel like trying to incur his wrath. The other reason was because on the occasions she did try to swing at him, he dodged, and then made comments on how he liked strong girls. Kankuro got a few laughs off of that, right until Temari realized that hitting Kankuro with her fan was no trouble at all. Naruto even got Gaara to talk sometimes, not very often, but he still got him to speak, and that was something. He usually compared Bijou with Gaara, and inwardly bitched to Kyuubi about why the hell he couldn't get a cool defense like Gaara had. He was sick of getting his ass kicked. Anyway, the point is, Naruto was quickly getting close to the Tsunajanin. The fact that he didn't rub the fact that he beat them in their faces helped exponentially. And now they were traveling through the desert, edging ever closer to Suna. The setting sun was actually doing very little to soothe the heat on one blonde-haired ninja. Naruto wiped his brow once again under the hot sun. Kami, this desert, why the fuck would people live somewhere so hot? This is ridiculous. Naruto looked back at the Suna kids who were smirking at his discomfort. I'll bet you're all loving this right now, aren't you? Kankuro snorted as he stifled his laughter. Yeah, definitely. You can run through 3 teams of Genin like a hot knife through butter, but a little heat and humidity, and you can't take it. Naruto gave him a half-hearted glare. Watch it, makeup boy. I'm really irritable out in this stupid heat. Kankuro growled at him. It's not makeup, damn it. It's war paint that... Naruto rolled his eyes. That you steal from your super-hot sister, Kankuro finished his sentence. That I steal from my super-hot sister. Kankuro blinked and retracted his statement. No, wait. Take all of that back. A grinning Naruto looked at the puppeteer. What? The you steal makeup part or your sister's super hot part? Both. My sister isn't hot. Kankuro felt a glare from behind him from Temari and deadpanned a look at Naruto. Damn you, kid. Naruto chuckled and decided to save Kankuro from his fate. Yo, Temari-chan, how close to Suna are we? I'm kind of on blind autopilot up here. Temari lowered her ill intent towards Kankuro and looked over at the leader of the makeshift squad. We should be right on top of the village any minute now. Right on cue, as they reached the top of a dune, a massive dome-esque structure came into view. And here we are. Naruto let the others take the lead from this point on, as fighting the slew of pissed-off foreign ninja, due to a misunderstanding, didn't really appeal to him at the moment. As they arrived at the opening, he noticed the faint glares from the guards, and rolled his eyes. Woohoo! Trading one village's glares for another, and I can't even kick anyone's ass here or I'll start a war. They made their way into the city, leading Naruto along. Kankuro turned to get his attention. Hey, the first thing we should do is let Baki-sensei know we made it back. I'll go find him. You can go with Temari and Gaara to our house until I get sensei. Naruto shrugged, as the fact that there currently was no Kazekage meant that he couldn't really go straight to his office and give him the information on the treaty, and the council wasn't just going to be called at the drop of a hat for something that wasn't an emergency. He decided that waiting was cool. The blonde foreigner nodded and followed Gaara and Temari as they made their way through Tsunade, their home. Naruto eventually ignored the reaction that the citizens of Suna were having towards a Konoha shinobi in their village, and took to a pastime that could draw his attention for the remainder of the trip. The watch Temari walk and not get caught game. He had to admit, Jiraiya did teach him something useful besides Rasengan on their search for Tsunade. The ever-useful advice from the super pervert was, when caught peeking at a girl in the street, do not look away as if you weren't looking at her, make eye contact instead. Usually guys like Naruto and himself would end up staring at girls that were kunoichi, a side effect of living in a ninja village, and they could sense when they were being watched. Lying like you weren't looking makes it worse, but letting her know you were looking, just not letting her know what exactly you were looking at, is a very good way to get your looks in. And Naruto, being an old hand in espionage under Danzo, had a killer poker face. Temari could tell he was looking at her, but the fact that whenever she looked back at him to call him a pervert, he was already looking into her eyes ended up silencing her, and making her quite flustered at his serious gaze. Naruto wasn't a pervert. He just had a healthy respect for the female condition. He was a growing young man, just like anyone else. So what? Eventually that had to come to an end as they all arrived at the house of their family, and by house I mean big-ass mansion. Naruto whistled as he walked through the gates and looked at the massive structure. It was the same color as all of the other desert buildings in Suna. It was just the biggest damn house out of all of them by far. This is your house? You guys have got a big-ass house. Temari smirked as they made their way inside. We are the children of the fourth Kazekage. Where did you think we lived? Come on and let's find you a room. As they traveled to the upper level of the mansion, Naruto was confused. Wait, I thought I would end up getting a hotel or something when I got here. I don't want to impose on you guys like this, it isn't really fair. Temari rolled her eyes while Gaara just stared at him. Uzumaki, I insist that you stay here. I won't accept anything else. Gaara then left Naruto and Temari in the hall alone. Naruto turned to his fellow blonde and pointed in the direction that Gaara went. Did he just try to be nice and tell me he was cool with me staying here? Temari nodded as she kept leading him down the hall. Even when Naruto asked why, it's because of what you did. I think he likes talking with you. It didn't really happen much before he met you. I think he's spoken to you more than anyone else in this village. I'm okay with it too, I guess. Why? Naruto was looking around and realized this place was too rich for his blood. I did kind of get you all captured and all of that other stuff, you know. Temari waved off his excuse. It was your job. I'm just glad you didn't kill us or anything. It was an invasion after all. Naruto grinned at her. I would never. Killing such a beautiful thing like you would have been madness for me to get over after the deed was done. Naruto once again ducked a swing of her fan that surprisingly didn't break anything in the hallway when she missed. Temari placed the fan on her back again, with the faint traces of a blush on her face. She honestly wasn't used to being flirted with at all. The entire time before this, everyone had been too afraid of Gaara to even attempt to get close to her. And out of the blue here comes this kid that not only has the gall to try it, but who doesn't fear Gaara because he'd already beaten Gaara cleanly once before. She had to admit, it was kind of nice for a boy to talk about her like that, and it wasn't like he was bad looking. After ditching the orange jumpsuit, he was far better looking than before, and the mysterious scar on his face didn't detract from said looks at all. They came to a stop in front of a door that Temari opened for him. This will be your room for your stay. Naruto went inside and had to do a complete spin to fully take in the aesthetics of the room. This is my room? This is probably as big as my entire damn apartment. Does this room have its own bathroom? What the hell do you guys do with all of this space? Temari had a humored smile on her lips. We're rich, so anything we want would be the correct answer to your question. Naruto chuckled and began setting his things by the bed. The rest of us are down the hall. If you need something, our rooms aren't that hard to find. Naruto nodded. Okay, I guess I'll just go to sleep tonight and worry about other stuff in the morning, like the scroll and all of that. No one will probably even get into gear about this until then anyway. Okay, Kankuro or I will help you with that tomorrow. She watched as he walked into the bathroom and began splashing his face with water from the sink. Good night then, Naruto. He heard her and yelled out from the bathroom. Good night, Temari-chan. As the sounds of her shutting the door rang out through the room, Naruto sighed and shut off the water before returning to flop on the bed. As Tamari walked through the hall to reach her own room, she had to giggle when a familiar voice rang out shortly after she shut his door. Oh God, even their bed's crap all over mine. This mission is awesome. The next day, Naruto met up with the Suna Council that, surprisingly, showed him more respect than he had received anywhere prior to this. However, he chalked it up more to the fact that he was something of an ambassador in this case. After that meeting, which mostly consisted of him sitting and listening to the old men bicker over how this should be taken, Baki assured him he wouldn't have to sit through something like that for the rest of his time in Suna, which brought a laugh from the boy. He and Baki eventually met up with Tamari, Kankuro, and Gaara at a training ground and found Tamari obliterating the desert scape. It was then that he was blindsided with a request from the fan-wielding girl. Naruto blinked incredulously. "You want me to what?" Tamari leaned against her fan, staring Naruto down. "I want to fight you, so come on." Naruto kept blinking at her. "You against me? Really? Why would you want to fight me?" She huffed at him and began to walk up on him to poke him in the chest. "I saw you using Wind Chakra and Futon Jutsu back in Konoha. I use them too, and I want to see who is better, me or you." Naruto looked to the others for help, but only saw Baki and Kankuro looking anywhere but at them. "Tamari-chan, I'm not much for casual sparring. When I spar, people get hurt and my jutsu aren't really the probing type. I only have 2 jutsu right now that don't have the potential to kill you." Tamari glared at him. "So you think I can't take it? Alright, now we're definitely fighting. Get ready, Naruto." Naruto sighed and backed up to sit down in a stance. "Someone call this?" Baki walked forward. "The fight will end when I say, or one of you surrenders. Ready?" He got nods from both Naruto and Tamari. "Fight." Tamari wasted no time and whipped her fan out to send a massive gust at Naruto. Naruto immediately went on the move and tried closing the distance, but was forced to go serpentine in his movements so that he wasn't lifted clear off of the ground. Naruto drew closer and saw Tamari swing her fan at him in an effort to end the fight. Naruto brandished his sword and blocked, sliding slightly through the sand until he gained some footing. As she pushed against his sword, she realized that he wasn't budging. "Why are you so strong?" Naruto grinned at her. "Because it's more useful than being weak." Naruto pulled his sword away and caught her fan in one hand while sheathing his sword in the other. Tamari was marveling at the raw strength it took to hold her back. This moment of awe came back to bite her as Naruto swiftly disarmed her by grabbing onto her fan with both hands and swinging away with it to throw her off. As she slid through the sand and regained a standing position, she saw Naruto holding onto her fan, looking at her blankly. "You want to give up?" "I'm really not in a fighting mood right now." Tamari gritted her teeth in anger. "Stop underestimating me." She then charged in and tried her hand up close against him. Naruto sighed and threw the fan aside as the sandy blonde girl got ever closer. Tamari threw a series of punches that Naruto swiftly swatted aside. However, he didn't want to counter and injure her, so he stayed on the strictly defensive. Tamari was getting progressively angrier at her inability to injure Naruto, apparently the guy that had been hitting on her for 3 days, and the guy that she was currently in conflict with actually did exist in the same body at the same time. Seeing that during their short skirmish she had gotten her back to her fan, she broke off and picked it up, unfurling it with a smirk. "Now what are you going to do?" Naruto pointed at her fan. "You're going to be dead in like 5 seconds, just so you know." She looked at her fan to see a slow burning explosive note attached to it, and hurriedly threw it away just in time to see a small puff go off on her fan. As she turned back to Naruto, she had no time to react before she was on her back, looking up at the sky with a kunai at her throat. She blinked and realized Naruto was pinning her down with a kunai at her throat. "But, what?" Naruto looked at Baki, who announced his victory, and he helped her up. She dusted herself off and went to retrieve her fan. "It was a dud?" Naruto nodded. "Well, yeah, did you really think I was going to blow you and your fan up just for a spa?" He took her fan and dusted off the soot from his note before handing it back. Tamari snatched it back heatedly and placed it on her back. "You completely destroyed me. I never had a chance." She clenched her fists. "I'm weaker than I thought I was. Naruto shook his head as they met back up with the others. It's not that you're weak, it's that I'm not a Jinin. Hell, I shouldn't even be a Chunin. You're Chunin level from what I saw during the exams, but I'm a hard guy to fight. Kankuro patted Tamari on the shoulder. I told you it wouldn't have been a good idea to fight him. Why do you think I didn't? Tamari glared at him. Because you're a lazy bastard, maybe? Kankuro frowned. No, this guy beat Gaara. We didn't have a chance against him, not yet anyway. I want to try, but I know that I'll lose if I do, so there's no need. Naruto scratched his head and tried to walk away. This is why I didn't want to spar. No matter how I handled it, I was going to hurt your feelings, and I didn't want to do that. He turned back momentarily. I like hanging out with you guys. The idea of me doing nothing but spending time with Junin and other adults just because I can fight doesn't really work for me. So I don't want to squash everyone in my age group and make them feel inferior, but it's the only way I know how to train or fight full blast. He gestured to the training ground. Even when I hold back, it ends up like that. Turning back towards town, he waved back. I'll get my stuff out tonight and get a room somewhere. My business here should be done within the week. He shined away, leaving Team Baki out on the training grounds in his wake. Roughly 30 minutes later, Naruto shut the door to the mansion to leave just in time for Tamari to grab him and drag him back inside by the back of his shirt. Kankuro and Baki's sweat dropped at her display and went about their business. Tamari dragged Naruto up the stairs and back into his guest room before finally dropping him. Naruto stood up and shook himself off. Any particular reason you just dragged me through your house like I was your battle fan? Tamari crossed her arms and sat on his bed. You're not leaving like that, not because of a simple spar. A quirked eyebrow from Naruto let her know his mindset on it. You were just pissed off at me about the fight and you still want me here? Tamari rolled her eyes. Do Naruto. I was mad, yes, but I had just lost decisively. What? Was I supposed to be happy that you kicked my ass? That's not a reason to want to kick you out. That would be petty, especially since I was the one that made you fight. Her eyes narrowed, however. But you did humiliate me out there, and you owe me for that. Naruto gripped his hair. Humiliated you? Who else saw it but your team and me? Her eyes softened after that as she looked at him with a smile. You owe me, and you're taking me out tonight. She stood and walked over to him, looking him in the eyes. Nothing big, just to get something to eat, but you will be paying. She walked out of his room but reappeared at the doorway. But it's not a date. With that, she left him alone in the room. Naruto chuckled to himself. Now that's my kind of girl. I kick her ass and then she wants to date me because of it. That night Naruto had asked her where she wanted to go, and she ended up choosing a simple diner. Nothing expensive or anything, it was kind or spur of the moment. The meal was spent with the two of them continuing to talk about their ninja lives. Tamari had a good time learning about the strange blonde, and he simply had a blast enjoying the company of a girl that seemingly wanted to spend some time with him. Tamari folded her hands and set her chin on them. I watched the last couple of fights that you had. For some reason you really had it out for the Uchiha boy. What was that all about, by the way? Naruto had set down the money for their meal on the check. I hate Odo Shinobi. So much. Long story short, they were the ones that gave me the scar on my face, among other things. I dislike them immensely, and Orochimaru's cronies with those damn seals on their bodies are the ones I hate the most. He paused to calm himself down. I didn't really like Sasuke that much anyway. There was always some kind of underlying animosity, but seeing him actually using that damn thing pissed me off so much I couldn't take it. Naruto looked at her with a smirk on his face. Who uses something that an infamous S-ranked ninja with crimes against humanity on them gives him anyway? That really isn't the smartest thing you could do. Tamari laughed slightly. True? I thought he was a genius, wasn't he? Naruto laughed in return. Yeah, I guess. But they throw that term around a lot in Konoha, I swear. Every year another genius ends up rolling out of the academy and gets pegged as the second coming of the fourth Hokage or something. It's ridiculous. Tamari had a smile on her face as their check and cash were taken by the waitress. Well, what about you? What does that make you? You're way better than anyone our age that I've ever met. Naruto shrugged in his seat. I wouldn't call myself a genius, that's for sure. I actually had to train my ass off to get what I've got, and I'm still nowhere where I should be. There are some dangerous people out in the world, and I've made some powerful enemies that I still need to prepare for. Temari put her hand on his and smiled at him. Well, I know you'll be ready when the time comes to fight. You're a strong person, Naruto. Naruto smiled back at her. Thank you, Temari-chan. That means a lot to me. After a short walk around the night-lit village, Naruto escorted the girl to her bedroom door and bid her goodnight, even getting a kiss on the cheek for his chivalry. Naruto smirked all the way back to his room where he sensed someone's presence. Flipping his lights on, he saw the youngest member of the household standing in the corner of the room waiting, Uzumaki. Naruto got over his surprise and returned the greeting. Hello, Gaara. What are you doing in here? What's up? Gaara stayed in his place as his eyes stuck on Naruto. How was your evening with my sister? Naruto felt the sweat roll down his back at the intent of Gaara's tone. He may have beaten him once before. But last time they weren't fighting in a desert either, so he didn't really feel like scraping with him again. It was great. Temari-chan is awesome. We had a good time. Gaara nodded and made his way out of the room. Very good. And Uzumaki, if you hurt my sister, I will kill you. Not Shukaku me. Naruto blinked as Gaara's presence left before a door down the hall shut. Did Gaara just pull the protective brother card on me? Naruto shook his head and started getting ready for bed. This mission is weird. The next day, Naruto received the scroll from the council with their offers to Konoha for a treaty. With the bulk of his mission completed, Naruto bid each of the siblings goodbye at the gate. He shook Gaara's hand, bumped fists with Kankuro, and got a hug and a kiss from Temari. That last one spurred him to a blush as he sputtered out a goodbye and turned to return to Konoha through the desert. Temari smirked at his reaction while Kankuro laughed heartily at the super-strong kid getting so flustered. Naruto took off through the dunes to return to Konoha for his next assignment. Little did he know how important this next one would be to him personally. Naruto had cut a hellacious pace through the desert and was out of Kei's no Kuni in one day. The trip through the forests of High no Kuni were much easier for him. Thus his pace picked up and he stopped for the night, only a few hours away from Konoha. The next morning he barreled into the village, dodging civilians, and took to the rooftops to arrive at the Hawkage Tower swiftly so he could rest or get another mission before it got to be the afternoon. As he got close to the door, he saw Shizune running all about the tower with a frantic look on her face. Raising an eyebrow at her behavior, he tried to get her attention. Shizune-chan, you're moving kind of fast this morning, aren't you? He noticed that she looked somewhat fatigued. Is there something wrong? You look like you barely slept, if you even did it all last night. Shizune stopped and looked at him, eyes widening when she saw it was him. Naruto-kun! Thank goodness you're here. You got done fast. Whatever. Tsunade-sama, need you now. Shizune grabbed and shoved Naruto into her office and shut the door before he could even speak. He rubbed his arm. Damn, Shizune-chan. Grip. Naruto looked at Tsunade's desk to see her drinking sake and looking down at some kind of papers. Naruto fished in his pocket and walked up to her desk to place the scroll from Suna down. Tsunade's head snapped up, as she had just noticed Naruto right then, and her eyes lit up. Naruto. This once again confused him. Yes, me. Are you and Shizune feeling okay, Ba-chan? You never call me Naruto to my face and you're both freaking out about something. Tsunade grabbed Naruto by his cheeks and pulled him halfway over the desk, scaring the crap out of him. Tsunade shook him. I need you to go back up a team. Naruto looked confused. Now? Damn. I just got back. What is it? And who am I going to meet up with? Tsunade let go of him and sat down. I know it's sudden, but I sent out a team of Jinin to retrieve Sasuke Uchiha from a group of Oto ninja sent to take him to Orochimaru. Naruto narrowed his eyes. Did he leave with them or did they kidnap him? Tsunade shrugged. We don't know, but either way we can't let Orochimaru have the Sharingan. That would be catastrophic for Konoha. She sighed and looked at him seriously. Naruto, I'm sorry to send you out so soon after you got back, but your next mission will be to give assistance to the retrieval team of Kunin Shikamaru Nara and his squad consisting of Jinin Neji Hyuga, Kiba Inuzuka, Choji Akimichi, and Rock Lee. Naruto took on a stone-like visage and nodded. Hi Hokage-sama. Tsunade blinked in surprise. Pretty professional brat. Naruto didn't flinch. There's a time for being goofy, now isn't the time. I'll leave on your call. Tsunade nodded. Go and hurry and catch up with them. Orochimaru wouldn't have sent anyone weak to bring Sasuke to him. I would send a team with you, but we don't have anyone on reserve right now. I'm sure you can tell due to such a high-profile retrieval team being made of genin and a newly promoted chunin. She remembered something before he could exit. Naruto, wait. He turned in time to catch a bag with a few soldier pills in it. Take care of yourself, brat. Don't go overboard out there and help those kids get out alive. I'll send backup as soon as I can. Naruto saluted Tsunade with a smile and left the office and building in a hurry to rush to his former classmate's aid. Naruto tore through the town at a breakneck pace, completely bypassing the gate altogether in a yellow and red blur. Sakura, who had been sitting under a tree nearby the gate ever since the retrieval team had left early that morning, had gotten a glimpse of the figure in red and yellow causing all of the ruckus throughout town. In Naruto? As he took to leaping through the trees, Naruto went off in the general direction of Tanokuni, hoping to quickly pick up a trail from either the retrieval team or the squad of Odo ninja they were in pursuit of. Eventually he came upon a clearing that looked as if it had been the site of a small battle. He surmised that he had to be heading in the right direction, so he simply went on autopilot and prepared for battle as he raced to catch up. Choji was at the end of his rope. Taking 2 of his family's secret pills wasn't enough to finish this guy off, as even when he attempted to squash him with a full-on body press, after he used super multi-size jutsu, the guy just let the strange marks on his body transform him into some kinda red demonic-looking creature with wild orange hair. Choji watched as the powerful ninja edged ever closer with a smirk on his face to end his life. Choji looked at the case of food pills he had brought, seeing the 2 empty slots and the one that had just 1 red pill inside. The red chili pill. When I take this, it should be enough to finish him off, but afterwards. Choji steeled himself and lifted the case close to him, mouth to pop the pill. Jirobo's eyes widened as he saw that Choji had 1 more of those twice-damned pills still on him, and as he prepared to rush him to kill him before he could take it, a sharp slicing feeling across his body sent him flying back as he watched his own blood fly through the air. Choji held back on taking the pill as he heard a massive body hit the ground hard. Sitting up after much effort on his part, he saw a familiar face holding a bloody sword, and Naruto. Naruto looked up at him with his eyes full of fury, softening them upon seeing the state Choji was in. Choji, how are you feeling? Choji snapped out of his thoughts of how he was just saved. I'm fine, Naruto. But this guy is strong. I'm really glad you're here. I almost ended up taking the last of my pills to beat him, but now we can both take him out. Choji then slowly stood up. Naruto walked over to Choji. Do you have any soldier pills on you? Choji felt around on his person before he remembered. No. This guy caught us and drained our chakra at first before I broke off to fight him. I gave everyone else my pills, sorry. Naruto reached into a bag tied to his hip and tossed Choji a pill. Tsunade-kan gave me a bag in case of something like this. Choji nodded and took the pill, noticeably perking up afterwards. Good, you're better. Now go and catch up to the others in case they need help. Choji widened his mouth in shock. Naruto, this guy is tough. We can take him out together and move on. It would be way easier. Naruto nodded. Yeah. But he broke off from his squad to fight you first. That means that the others with him are stronger. The others might need your help. I'll finish up here and catch up to the rest of you. I'm your backup after all. Now go. Trust me. Naruto had a reassuring smile on his face. Choji looked apprehensive for a moment before turning to head off in the direction of Shikamaru's squad. Naruto turned back to Jirobo, smile utterly vanishing from his face as he was hit with a wave of déjà vu. Jirobo angrily stood up and wiped the blood dripping from the wound on his chest, glaring murder at Naruto. You pathetic trash. You think just because you replace the fat one that you can make a difference? You're all going to die. Naruto stayed staring at Jirobo. There was something that just wasn't hitting him at the moment. I wouldn't be calling anyone fat if I were you chubs. But there's something about you that is picking at my brain. Jirobo began slowly stalking Naruto down, All of you brats are going to die. The moment I activated Orochimaru-sama's cursed seal, your life was forfeit. Naruto's eyes slowly widened. Cursed seal. Cursed seal. Cursed seal, kid. It's one of them. Kyuubi was buzzing with bloodlust at one of the orchestrators of Naruto's lost years. Naruto's eyes blazed with anger at Jirobo. Cursed seal. You're one of those 5 sons of bitches that cut me all up into no kuni 4 years ago. Jirobo looked at Naruto as if trying to remember a blonde kid with a scar on his face, until finally realization hit. Jirobo laughed raucously as his memory was piqued. You're almost as much of a pipsqueak now as you were back then. Jirobo mocked Naruto's scar. That didn't heal too well, did it? He laughed loudly at his own little joke. I only saw you without your mask after it was mostly cut through. But that shock, bright blonde hair and your short little ass brought the memory right back to me. Naruto smiled grimly. I'm glad you find it so funny. I'm glad your last thought can be one that you find pleasant. Because I'm going to fuck you up right now. Jirobo broke out in laughter. And how are you going to do that? You do remember what happened last time, don't you? There are quite a few differences between this time and last time. Naruto held up one finger. Last time you all had the drop on me and I was under mass pursuit. He held up a second finger. And last time it was 5-on-1. Naruto vanished from sight and slashes began appearing all over Jirobo's body, sending blood all over the place. Jirobo tried to make use of his massive strength to make contact with Naruto to put him away with one clean shot. But in this case, it was more like a person trying to focus on the squiggly line of light at the corner of their field of vision, as Naruto was far too fast to be caught by one of the lumbering heavyweight strikes. After getting kicked in the ribs and feeling what was left of his wind leave his body, Jirobo was huffing and puffing hard. This guy, Orochimaru-sama said, with this seal I would be unbeatable against ninja like this leaf trash. Naruto had a mental smirk going as he drew closer to Jirobo. I'm glad Choji softened this guy up so well. At this rate, I won't even need to use any jutsu to win. How embarrassing. Oh well, payback is a motherfucker. Jirobo had a fire relit under him as Naruto strode closer, and put everything he had in one punch. That Naruto ended up cutting straight through with his wind-enhanced sword right up to the elbow, splitting the arm like a peeled banana. Jirobo howled in agony as Naruto continued to dice him up, cutting both of his Achilles tendons, sending the large boy to the ground in a bloody mess. Jirobo willed his one good limb to move, before Naruto drove a sword through it, pinning it to the ground as he stomped on his chest hard, sending Jirobo sitting up somewhat. But this was just so Naruto could plant a nasty punt right under his chin that should have decapitated him, or disconnected his neck from his spine had he not been cursed seal-enhanced. Jirobo coughed up a glob of blood, and hacked painfully as Naruto pulled his sword out of Jirobo's arm and poised himself to deliver the final strike. Naruto stood over him and looked down with cold eyes. Any last words before I send you to get boned by the devil in hell? Jirobo had a cocky look on his face, even through all the blood and dirt covering him. He spit blood out to the side and looked up at Naruto. Yeah, you may have beaten me, but everyone else on my team is stronger than me. And they all have this curse mark just like me. Naruto steadied his hand for a moment as a strange gleam came into his eye. Your team wouldn't happen to have a pale kid with faggy lipstick, a redhead that curses every other word, and a guy with like 4 extra arms, would it? Jirobo was confused by his sudden change in tone. Yeah. It's the same team that expelled you from Sunagakure 4 years ago. Naruto rushed rapidly through the trees to catch up with the retrieval team post-haste. As he leapt through the branches, a devilish smirk played on his lips, and a manic gleam lay in his eyes. As his fingers twitched, Naruto's thoughts drifted to how the base of Orochimaru was in an uproar after Jiraiya's exit, and how he was eventually discovered before he could make his own escape. He remembered the dogged pursuit by 4 different ninja dressed in Orochimaru look-alike purple belts, and how eventually he was forced to stop and fight them. Despite their unique skill sets, he still had the upper hand easily over them all. Naruto then thought of how the white-haired guy with the bones as a weapon jumped in right as he was winning against all 4 of his pursuers. He willed them to activate their cursed seals and they began to overwhelm him. The white-haired guy even ended up shooting bones at him. He growled and gritted his teeth as he continued to run. He thoughtfully traced the scar over his eye and clenched his fist so hard that it drew blood. Naruto remembered a desperate retreat to Tian no Kuni's borders that had him perpetually plagued by assaults from any combination of the 5 powered-up Oto ninja. The last of which almost ended up getting at least his right eye when the guy with the bones pulled out a blade from his body and slashed Naruto across the face deeply during the fight, only ending with him escaping due to a well-timed explosive tag. A lot of luck in pumping the Kyuubi's chakra to his legs for hours until he collapsed in a pool of his own blood after crossing the border a decent distance, conveniently being the last cognizant thought he had as a member of Root. Naruto shivered in anticipation as he sensed multiple signatures up ahead and saw a lot of white webbing. Kyuubi, chill the fuck out. I'm trying to get my mind right before I start fighting again. Naruto had his hands on his head trying to shake out the song. Kyuubi sheepishly stopped singing within Naruto's mindscape. Sorry kid, but I've wanted this just as badly as you have for just as long. How lucky you are that this ended up being conveniently dropped into your lap. You need to give that old hag a kiss or a bottle of her blasted alcohol when you get back to Konoha for this one. Naruto saw Neji and his opponent up above him in the trees, conveniently being the guy with 6 arms. Neji retreated to the ground where he began to throw gold-colored weapons at Neji, who was using chitin to defend against them. As Neji rotated and avoided the weapons, Naruto snuck around the battlefield. Neji is fine. As long as this guy is messing with him with his little punk-ass throwing knives, then I can just kill him and be done with it. Naruto skulked to the upper levels of the forest while the fight continued down below. By now, a giant spider had been summoned and was producing tons of tiny little spiders to wrap Neji in webbing, but he fought them all off with 8 trigrams 128 palms. Naruto saw the black marks that had been spread across Kimimiro's body for quite some time as he stepped his game up, and decided now was as good a time as any to finish him. Naruto pulled out a kunai and threw it at Kimimaro before pushing his own hands together. Wind release. Violent wind palm. The added boost from the wind jutsu sent the high-speed weapon straight into the base of Kimimiro's skull, with a dull, wet thunk noise buried up to the ring. Kimimiro's confident smirk turned to a death rattle as the markings from his cursed seal receded, and he fell from his place in the trees lifelessly. Naruto grinned to himself and punched the air in victory as he whispered, "Boom, headshot." Neji breathed a sigh of relief as he watched Kimimiro's corpse drop before he deactivated his Bakugan. "You can come out, Naruto. I saw you while we were fighting. I didn't think you would sneak up on someone that strong, though." Due to deactivating his all-seeing eyes, Neji never saw Naruto suddenly appear from his blind spot, when just a second sooner he had been in front of him. "I'm afraid that you are underestimating the sneakiness, sir." Naruto dropped from the canopy, frightening the genius, to find Neji not very worse for wear. Naruto smirked at Neji as they walked closer. "Thanks for holding his attention. Have you been fighting long?" Neji recollected himself and shook his head. "No, I don't think we're too far behind either. I assume you defeated Choji's opponent for us when you let him go after us." Naruto motioned for Neji to follow him as they took off into the woods again to give chase to their comrades. Naruto and Neji landed with Shikamaru and Choji looking at their 2 opponents. Naruto looked over at the gritted teeth on the face of Shikamaru. "What happened?" Shikamaru wasn't surprised to see Naruto as Choji told him Naruto had freed him up from his own fight. "Kiba. He and one of the Oto guys went over the cliff into the water." Naruto nodded. "Neji, go find Kiba and help him out. He and Akamaru wouldn't die off of something so simple, follow the river." Neji nodded and jumped off. Shikamaru breathed a slight sigh of relief. "Okay." But another guy showed up and took the barrel holding Sasuke away. Rock Lee was fast enough to get away and give chase. Naruto raised an eyebrow. White hair? White hair? Weird marks above his brow? After blinking for a few seconds, Shikamaru nodded. Yeah? How did you know?" Naruto chuckled. "I'm just good like that." Tayuya was getting upset with all of the talk going on. "Hey, what are you 3 cocksuckers doing over there?" Naruto cleaned out his ears. "Wow. Her mouth got even dirtier over the last couple of years. Tayuya squinted at the new arrival. Her mental capacities were quicker than Jirobo. And if you are one of Orochimaru's elite bodyguards, you tend to remember the people that end up taking it to your ass in a fight. She raised her finger and pointed at him with a look of fury on her face. You fucking spying son of a bitch! Why the fuck are you here? Naruto grinned at her darkly. Aside from trying to get my payback on you fuckers, I'm backing these guys up. Unlucky you. You backed the wrong horse when it came to Orochimaru. Now I think I'd pay you back for the shit all of you fucks tried on me back in the day, but your bony friend is my real issue. Tayuya shook in fright before steeling her resolve. None of you Konoha shitstains are getting past me. Tayuya began playing her flute. Naruto noticed Choji and Shikamaru beginning to fall under it, and he rushed her quickly. With a shrill tweet of the air in her lungs rushing into the flute following a punch to the body, Naruto began battering Tayuya with savage taijutsu combinations. She was no slouch up close, being one of Orochimaru's elites. But Naruto was too fast and too strong for her to take on without her seal, and he wasn't giving her a chance to activate it with the ferocity of his attack. He battered her swiftly anywhere he could hit her. He fought furiously due to the fact that he knew how dangerous her genjutsu could be, and that the others couldn't break them as easily as he could, after all. Who else had a demon with near-infinite power inside them to help break illusions? Naruto eventually snatched the flute from her hands and backhanded her to the ground. Tayuya tried to rise quickly but went nose to edge with Naruto's blade. She looked up into his eyes. If I even feel your chakra start to spike to use that fucking seal, I'm gonna start cutting stuff off. Chill out. Tayuya glared up at him. Does this make you feel like a man, you dickless, blonde-haired fuck? Do you like what you're doing to us? A slightly chilling glance from Naruto made her subconsciously shiver. Well, considering the events that preceded it, I would think that sweet vengeance would be necessary. Luckily for you, I need something from your team, and you're lucky enough to be the one chosen for it. Naruto grinned mischievously at her. Prisoner says what? Tayuya looked confused. Wha? Naruto slapped her hard across the back of her head with the blunt side of his sword and pulled out some ninja wire. He quickly hog-tied her tightly and turned to Shikamaru and Choji. Take her back to Konoha and get her locked up. I'll keep going and get Rock Lee out of his situation. The guy he's chasing is stronger than all of these other guys combined. Naruto then stopped and looked at him sheepishly. Sorry. I'm kind of running your show here. You're the leader of this squad and everything. Shikamaru and Choji walked over with Choji hoisting Tayuya's unconscious body over his shoulder. Shikamaru chuckled. Well, you do technically have seniority over me, even if it is only by like a week or two, and you're the strongest out of all of us. You go and finish the mission. Neji will find Kiba and help him, and we'll take her back to Konoha. Naruto saluted Shikamaru and jumped off, heading towards the border of Hai no Kuni and Tano Kuni once more. Naruto stopped in a clearing in the forest where he saw Lee doing pretty well against Kimimaro, until Kimimaro started shredding him with his rib bones. As Kimimaro moved in to finish off Lee, he was forced to jump back after a slash from Naruto. Naruto stood protectively in front of Rock Lee with his sword drawn. It looks like you're still the best one out of all of them. The rest of them didn't dodge my first attacks. Kimimaro scoffed at Naruto. Don't compare me to the trash that preceded you. I am Orochimaru-sama's former choice for a vessel. Naruto snickered. Former choice. What happened? Did he blow a little too hard for you and rupture your rectal cavity one night or something? Kimimaro's eye twitched as Rock Lee stood back up. It is good to see you, Naruto-kun. This opponent is most vexing to combat. Naruto looked behind him and smiled slightly. Hey, fuzzy eyebrows. Good to see you up and about again. Naruto noticed a broken barrel at the edge of the field. Lee, where's Sasuke? Lee frowned at Naruto's last sentence. That is what I find truly strange, Naruto-kun. Sasuke-kun emerged from the barrel not too long ago, and then started laughing most unyouthfully. When I thought he would turn back to Konoha, he just kept going out towards the border. That's just great, Naruto. Ah well, even if Sasuke pulls that stupid seal out, Rock Lee can beat him. I'm sure of it. Naruto palmed his forehead and slid his hand down his face. Fuck. Rock Lee, go get Sasuke. I'll fight this guy. He and I have a bone to pick with each other anyway. No pun intended. Go stop Sasuke by any means necessary, go. Asu. Rock Lee saluted Naruto and took off into the forest. Naruto turned back to Kimimaro, who looked at Naruto in recollection. I remember you. You are the vermin from Konoha that was discovered trespassing in Orochimaru-sama's lair years ago. I will now rectify my mistake of not finishing you off as my last act for Orochimaru-sama before my life is over. Naruto looked at him thoughtfully. You're dying. And killing me is the last thing that you want to do before you go. So be it. I owe you for what you did to my face and my body 4 years ago. I killed 2 of the others, captured 1, and the other is probably being killed by the others as we speak. I still wish I could take a swing at that cross-dressing piece of crap. Kimimaro pulled a bone sword from his arm and held it out in a stance. You think that I care that you could kill those other useless pawns? Orochimaru-sama has no need for weak tools. Naruto drew his own sword and had to get one last jibe in before the fight started. Well, then I guess he won't be missing you too much. Because if losing to me makes you weak, then you're going to be considered a weak pawn soon enough. Kimimaro narrowed his eyes and rushed in, showing Naruto his speed for the first time in years, coming in with sudden thrusts and slashes. The two traded blade strikes, with Kimimaro's being faster and more precise in jabbing, and Naruto's being flowing, moving from swing to a block, dodge, or parry like water. Kimimaro simply slipped out of the way of Naruto's blade and came back with his own attacks. The two couldn't seem to cut the other in the fracas of their movements. Kimimaro gripped his sword tightly. He's still just as fluid with his sword as he was back then. He looked at his weapon of choice. I hope Dance of the Camellia is enough to defeat him. Naruto shifted his own sword around in his hands to loosen up. Quickly sheathing his sword, he forms a mass of shadow clones that then draw their swords. The original Naruto draws his own and points it at Kimimaro. I'm trying to shy away from the strategy of just swarming my enemies with shadow clones. But for you, I'll go with the old strategy. In my mind, there is no such thing as overkill. Naruto signals his copies forward to engage Kimimaro at once. He valiantly fended off Naruto's multiple clones, dispelling a few. But mostly when it came to this jutsu, Naruto knew they were disposable, so a few clones were nothing. He could just keep on spamming them indefinitely. Eventually, Naruto's shadow clones ended up disarming Kimimaro, and they quickly swarmed him, before popping sounds rang out in rapid succession. As the clones backed away, Naruto saw that Kimimaro had exposed sharp points from his palms, shoulders, knees, and elbows. Naruto signaled his shadow clones to try and attack again, but with this new tactic from Kimimaro, Naruto was sending them into a buzzsaw. Kimimaro drifted through them all. Every movement around the bodies he made seemed to cut into them, even when it looked like he wasn't trying. Simply running while using this technique seemed treacherous to his foes. Naruto noticed the last of the clones getting dispelled, and he readied his own body for combat. Kimimaro came in spinning wildly with his sharp spines. Naruto had to dodge for his life to avoid the deadly whirling dervish from Kimimaro. Naruto kicked him in his body, which was wide open during his assault, and began attempting to slash at Kimimaro in response to his most recent dance. Kimimaro kept out of Naruto's reach, showing that he was the better man in close-range combat. Naruto knew from the last time that they fought that even though Kimimaro had an absurd amount of support, he far outclassed Naruto with hand-to-hand combat. This was sort of a problem for Naruto. He was a close to mid-range specialist, and that just wouldn't do against Kimimaro, who wouldn't be easy to beat in close. Naruto stormed back in, as did Kimimaro. Kimimaro attempted a vicious sweep, the knee bone sticking out to try and cut Naruto off at his kneecaps. Naruto brought his blade down to block and ended up having to jump back and avoid the other spikes sticking from his enemy's body. Kimimaro kept spinning low as he moved closer to Naruto at a ridiculous speed for being so close to the ground. Naruto eventually timed his spins and hit Kimimaro in his exposed head with a sick low drop kick that snapped Kimimaro's head back hard, sending him sprawling out on the dirt and grass. Naruto took advantage of his situation. and kicked up to his feet from his back to an absurdly high height, thanks to the use of chakra to enhance his already considerable strength to finish Kimimaro with a vicious double stomp to his prone frame from above. Naruto's feet were caught just inches from contact of crushing Kimimaro's ribcage by his ribcage. Naruto found one of his feet stuck in the extended ribcage of the bone-wielding shinobi. Naruto tried to pull his leg free and ended up making eye contact with him. Kimimaro looked up at him blankly. Dance of the Larch. Kimimaro latched onto Naruto's leg with his arms as well, and rolled over sharply. Naruto gritted his teeth as a pop sound, signifying an injury to his ankle, rang out in both his and Kimimaro's ears. Naruto rolled away after freeing his limp ankle, and Kimimaro followed him, rolling also, only with even more sharp spines protruding from his body like a human combine harvester, ripping up ground with every inch that he rolled. Naruto couldn't stand up with his ankle utterly dislocated, and Kimimaro was dead set on rolling him over. Naruto, in a last-ditch effort to create some space, brandished his sword and stabbed it into the ground between himself and Kimimaro, who managed to get his bones tangled into the blades. Naruto used this time to roll away quickly and realign his ankle into place with a quick snap, letting out a silent yell as he allowed the bone to reset with not a sound as Kyuubi's regenerative properties worked their miracle powers on quickly making his leg usable. Naruto stood just as Kimimaro freed his spikes from Naruto's sword by retracting them. Naruto pointed at Kimimaro heatedly. "You are a bastard, you know that. With your bones and your stupid bone defense crap." Even though he sounded angry, Naruto's face showed no anger, only focus and determination on the task at hand, which impressed Orochimaru's loyal soldier. Lifting his hands up at Naruto, he fired bones from his fingertips. Naruto had dropped his sword to make a hasty escape earlier, so he pulled shuriken and a kunai from his pouch. He deflected a few bones with the shuriken and used the kunai in his hand to bat away the rest in a risky move. Naruto rushed at Kimimaro, kunai in his grip, to attack. Kimimaro was once again shocked by the vicious nature of Naruto's attack. Naruto swiped at Kimimaro furiously, routinely switching hands and rolling the weapon in his fingers to attack from awkward angles. Naruto brought up a random axe kick that collided down on Kimimaro's shoulder. Naruto then drew another kunai and placed it between his toes, securing it double tightly under his sandal strap as he now began using his hands and feet to slash at the last of the Kaguya clan. The Oto elite was hard-pressed to defend against such an unorthodox attack, and just when Kimimaro thought he had seen the full extent of Naruto's skill, he pulled out a third kunai and tossed it high into the air. While he was distracted, Naruto ended up getting a few rapid cuts on his person, on his face and his chest. Due to his bone density, they were pretty shallow, but this meant that Kimimaro was slowly losing ground in the fight. "This is just as dangerous as one of my dances." The kunai Naruto tossed fell back to the earth, spinning dangerously, until Naruto's manic attack incorporated it into his assault. His spastic punching and kicking and frantic movements kept the kunai in the air, still spinning and targeting Kimimaro. He now had Naruto using kunai in his hands and on one foot, and had another as a wild card that he always had to look out for in the air. Naruto made an upslash at Kimimaro, forcing him to bridge back deeply. Naruto got a grin on his face as he took advantage once more and jumped into the air, rotating the kunai in his foot and catching the other that was in the air in his toes and his other foot, both pointing down in a stabbing motion. Naruto stabbed one foot into his chest, then the other, then the other. Soon Naruto was literally stomping a mud hole in Kimimaro's chest. Eventually, believing he had done enough with that attack, Naruto jumped off of his chest and reholstered the bloody kunai in his hand and between his feet. Looking over at Kimimaro, who was still standing, albeit bridged backwards, but standing regardless. Kimimaro leaned back up to reveal that Naruto had carved up his chest ruthlessly, with the majority of the puncture wounds and gashes going straight through to his ribs. "That was a very deadly attack you used. I dare say if it was anyone but myself that you used it on, this fight would be over. But my Keki Genkai allows me to harden my bones, as you can tell, among other things, and you didn't slip any attacks under my ribs." Kimimaro let the black marks from his cursed seal on his collarbone spread all along his body. "However, I'm just getting started, Konoha trash. I haven't even begun to reveal my true power." Naruto chuckled lightly as he let a red aura envelop him. You know, Bone Guy, I honestly have wanted to fight you all and possibly kill you ever since I got my memory back. You in particular, ever since I realized that you and those other teams were the main catalyst to how my life and skills went straight down the toilet almost forever. If you had never injured me so heavily upon my retreat from Odo, who knows how I'd be living right now. But that is not the point right now. Naruto allowed a shroud to envelop his body, forming a fox outline as his features became more feral. You, whether you know it or not, are a loose end in my past life that needs to be tied up. And I can think of no better way than to fight you and kill you myself. Naruto crouched down in a low mantis stance, showing his claws on his extended two fingers prominently. Come on, albino boy, show me what you've got and don't underestimate me. It might be the death of you, he finished with a feral grin baring his fangs. In the woods, miles away from the river he had fallen into, Kiba was sitting under a tree trying to take cover from his pursuing opponents. As he cradled Akamaru's injured and unconscious body, he growled to himself. If only I'd been stronger. Akamaru would have never gotten hurt if I had been. I can't beat anyone I face. Not any real shinobi anyway. I lost to Naruto twice, and now this guy? What am I doing with myself? He grabbed the wound on his stomach where he stabbed himself to injure one of his enemies when they attempted a parasitic jutsu to kill him. He couldn't run any further. He knew he wouldn't have gotten much distance anyway. So, you finally stopped running? Kiba saw that the connected brothers, Sakon and Ukon, coming closer to him. You were pretty bothersome to try to take down. Kiba chuckled humorlessly. Well, it was a good time while it lasted, huh? The two sound ninjas stalked Kiba down to finish the job when a familiar puppet came rushing onto the scene, chattering and scattering the two brothers to separate from one another and dodge. Man, is Naruto the only Konoha ninja that doesn't need backup or something? He bailed you out and now I'm getting the dog kid out of a situation. I take offense to that. Naruto may have assisted me in my battle, but I was far from defeated. The two voices appeared from the trees to reveal Neji and Kankuro, who was using his puppet Karasu. Thanks for the directions, Hyuga. I might have been a little later otherwise. Sakon voiced their opinion. Who the fuck is this with you two Konoha trash? Kankuro and Neji looked at one another and Neji gestured for Kankuro to speak. I am Sabaku no Kankuro, a shinobi of Suna, ally to Konoha, and here to kill you both. Their attention fell on the wounded Kiba as they heard him hiss in pain due to his injured abdomen. Go and help out that kid, I'll beat these two myself. Neji nodded and went to check on Kiba while Kankuro. Kiba grimaced as Neji helped him get in a decent sitting position to examine him with Baikugan. You two sure made it right in the nick of time. So did you beat that spider guy back there? Neji kept scanning the extent of Kiba's wounds. Naruto arrived and ended our fight before it could escalate any further. It's a good thing too, because I wasn't sure how I would have beaten him. He was incredibly difficult to attack. We caught up to the team afterwards, but when we got there, you and Lee were gone. Kiba chuckled as he watched Kankuro single-handedly beating back the two Oto twins. Well, it could be worse, I suppose. Nobody is dead yet, and I'll be fine. He looked up at Neji hopefully, right? Neji smirked. Yes, nothing too vital was hit within your wound. It's just enough to inflict decent internal trauma. Ah. Kiba looked over to see a second puppet full of blades that used to be part of Karasu. Kiba turned green as he could surmise what had happened. And poor Neji didn't even turn around as he pretty much saw the entire thing happen in its entirety, because he had been looking inside of Kiba, near 360 degrees of vision and X-ray capabilities. Yay. Kiba voiced the opinion of both boys. Okay? Nice finish, I guess. Kankuro watched the blood oozing out of the bottom of his puppet Kurori, Black Ant, and turned back to them with a smirk. Thanks. This puppet combination is one of my favorites. He walked over to Kiba and looked him over. So how is he? Neji deactivated his Baikugan to get the picture of the brothers being impaled and stuffed inside of a puppet out of his orbital sockets. Kiba will be fine for now, but we need to get him back to Konoha for treatment. Him and Akamaru. Carrying him might pose a problem and cause heavier blood loss, however. Kankuro grinned at them. No problem. He went over to Kuroari and knocked on it once to open it as the two corpses rolled out onto the ground. Kiba held back a dry heave and Neiji's eye twitched. And Kuro looked inside his puppet. Yeah, this should be just fine. We can put him in this and carry him that way. He won't be at risk at all. Kiba got a tick mark on his head, like hell I'm getting in that thing. You just killed 2 people in it. There's still pieces of them inside. And I think they released their bowels when you killed them too, because I smell shit. Kankuro sighed and moved his puppets along like a kid that was told to get up and go do his chores. Fine, fine. I'll go wash it out in the river, alright? Kiba growled. Fuck that shit. You better have some disinfectant on you, goddammit. As 2 figures flew through the woods back towards Konoha, the only sound coming from them was actually coming from the thing that one of them was carrying. Tayuya had woken up on Choji's shoulder about an hour after Naruto knocked her out and wouldn't shut the hell up. From calling them pubeless rapists to needle-dick transsexuals, she just kept bitching them out. Eventually Shikamaru ripped her hat off of her head and stuffed it into her mouth as a makeshift gag to get some peace and quiet, and now he and Choji were basking in the relative silence of their momentary victory. I say relative silence because she was still mumbling nasty curses through the gag. Shikamaru was currently thinking, this mission went straight to hell faster than I could have ever assumed it could have. My formation was useless when we were discovered and we had to break off into one-on-one fights. If Naruto hadn't shown up, we could have been in some serious trouble. Those guys were way stronger than us. The thought came to a close as they heard leaves rustling nearby. Choji set Tayuya down and prepared to fight, as did Shikamaru, when Temari landed on an adjacent branch. Woo, I finally caught up with you guys. I see you had a little scrape of trouble. Seeing Tayuya all tied up and cursing, she smirked. Looks like you didn't need backup after all. Choji sweated and chuckled. Oh, yes we did. Trust me, we did. Shikamaru nodded. It's true. We didn't beat her, Naruto did. Naruto beat 2 others, captured this girl here, and then went off further to keep up the chase. Choji said the first guy almost killed him one-on-one. Temari blinked in surprise. Naruto's out here too? He must have been rushed out even faster than we were. So you're saying the headless mohawk guy that we saw on the way here, and the dead spider guy with a kunai in the back of his head were examples of Naruto saving your asses? Choji and Shikamaru nodded. Choji raised his hand. I was there when he started fighting the mohawk guy. If the fight stayed the way it started off, then yes, Naruto definitely killed that guy. After picking up Tayuya, they set back out for Konoha. Shikamaru spoke up. So you guys were sent to back us up? Temari nodded. Right after Naruto left Suna, we got a messenger hawk from Konoha asking for assistance for an emergency, so we left immediately. With the speed we were moving, I thought we would have passed him on the way, but he must not have been joking about how he said he could run straight from Suna to Konoha non-stop. Shikamaru chuckled. You'd better believe it if he told you. Naruto beat 3 of these guys with little to no trouble. Where are your teammates? Temari pointed her thumb over her shoulder. We split up in the 3 different directions that we sensed your group in. They probably found the rest of your group by now. Shikamaru sighed in relief. That's good. This troublesome mission finally has a silver lining around a gray cloud. Let's get back to Konoha and wait for the others. Naruto and Kimimaro stood facing off. Kimimaro using his cursed seal level 1 form. Naruto activating the Kyuubi's shroud. The 2 stood still while the wind blew across the field. Kimimaro pulled the bones out of both of his arms to dual-wield swords. Let us begin. A short quirk of Naruto's lips was all the indication to start that either needed as they moved as blurs across the battlefield. Naruto was dodging Kimimaro's double-handed strikes and attempting to counter with his claws. Naruto ducked a dual slash at his head but ended up getting kicked back by Kimimaro. Naruto ducked down low and rushed at Kimimaro's legs, shooting for his knees with the takedown attempts, sweeps, and swiping at his legs and lower torso with his claws while simultaneously avoiding low stabbing attempts from Kimimaro. Kimimaro was the best all-around close-range fighter in pretty much all of Otogakure, and a good fighter can tell things about their opponent's style from watching them attack. Kimimaro saw that what Naruto gave up in poise, and precise movements due to his influx of power he gained in terms of his bloodlust, and ways to cause injury to his enemies. If Kimimaro didn't up his own power himself, then the attack would have begun to overwhelm him. After dodging a slash at his face, Kimimaro cut into Naruto's hip on both sides with a cross slash, and cut into his chest with rapid slashes that sent the demonically charged blonde backwards. Naruto picked himself up by his sword that he landed by, and looked back out at Kimimaro while holding the handle. Where there was momentarily blind rage in Naruto's eyes, cognizant thought made a return. Wow, I almost started losing it there for a second. I need to train more using this chakra, or else I might not be so lucky next time. I forgot about what too much of this stuff would do to me. One tail is overbearing. Naruto pulled the sword from the ground and smirked at Kimimaro before the two vanished and began clashing once again. The sound of bone clashing with steel echoed around the area as they crossed blades with one another again. Naruto's attacks once again became a fluid match for Kimimaro's sleek movements as the two dealt an equal amount of grazing wounds to one another as they met in a stalemate in Kenjutsu. When they broke off again, Naruto threw his sword like a javelin at Kimimaro, and at the relatively close range that the two were at, it thudded directly into his breastbone. However, it barely sunk in at all, despite the force used. Naruto scoffed as Kimimaro pulled the sword out and threw it aside. Those are some seriously tough bones. That would have run anyone else clean through. Naruto backed away and rushed in again, this time forming a shadow clone as a feint to engage with his hands, while the original leapt over Kimimaro to end up behind him. Naruto quickly molded wind chakra around his fists and held his fists together before shooting them out to utilize wind release. Divine Fist of the Wind God. Kimimaro looked back when he felt the influx of chakra, but this allowed the clone of Naruto to kick him off of their physical clash hard, sending him into the crushing force of the wind jutsu. As the attack hit Kimimaro and began pushing him forward at the clone, he was kicked by the clone in question, formed the exact same jutsu, and shot it off at the incoming Kimimaro. The two attacks smashed into one another with Kimimaro in between them. For the time that the jutsu held up, Naruto could see that Kimimaro's entire frame visibly compressed under the crushing pressure of the powerful attack. Kimimaro landed on his feet, panting heavily from the intensity of Naruto's jutsu. Naruto audibly sucked his teeth as he and his clone fired off the attacks once more, smashing Kimimaro between them with even more force this time. Naruto hit him so hard with the attack that he clearly heard the sound of bones cracking on Kimimaro's figure. Naruto's eyes slightly twitched. Tough bones or not? You should be human paste after that. I put a ton of chakra into that one. Nothing short of some kind of metal can stand up to that kind of pressure. Despite not being killed by Naruto's double divine fist of the wind god, it still did damage. The pressure did end up having an effect on Kimimaro. Naruto saw the whites of Kimimaro's eyes turning blood red, meaning that the intense pressure popped blood vessels up there. Blood ran from Kimimaro's ears and nose, even from underneath his finger and toenails. Kimimaro didn't seem to be in any pain, but it was obvious that such internal damage had left him in agony. Do you see? Kimimaro dropped the swords in his hands as he began to transform again. Orochimaru Sama and his ambition. That is why I fight, for his goals and dream. I am his weapon, and I will allow myself to be broken if it will prevent someone like you from stopping him. Kimimaro's skin turned brown and 6 large bone spikes protruded from the sides of his back. In addition to that, a spiky tail emerged from his back, and upon seeing that, Naruto just could not help himself. He pointed at Kimimaro with a dull expression on his face. Is that a motherfucking tail? Seriously? You grew a tail? Kimimaro stood back up and looked at Naruto with a superior gaze. This is Orochimaru-sama's gift to me. And with it I will repay him for all he has done by vanquishing the ones that stand in the way of him and his grand plans. Kimimaro pulled out his spinal column to form a flexible spiky chain staff. This is the dance of the clematis, vine. You are quite skilled to push me this far, but you will not win. Orochimaru-sama has plans for Sasuke Uchiha. It is most unfortunate for you that you will not live to see them come to fruition. Naruto drew his sword once again. Well, in order to make that happen, you're going to have to come over here and fight me. Unless you think you can kill me by talking me to death. Kimimaro snapped his new weapon in a test of sorts. For the future of Otogakure and Orochimaru-sama, you will die today. Naruto set his sword in a ready stance and gazed out at Kimimaro coldly. For someone that seems to have a fetish for saying that they're going to kill me, you sure do a lot of talking. Kimimaro began whipping his chain staff at Naruto, who found that Kimimaro was far faster in this form than before. It looks like this transformation of his isn't just for show. Naruto took a lash on his shoulder that ripped into his flesh deeply. Kimimaro then hit Naruto with the whip, and had it wrap around Naruto's right arm, and pulled him forward to sink a kick deep into his ribs that freed him from the weapon at the cost of flesh and blood being shredded from his arm. Naruto held the injured limb and watched his blood drip off of his body and onto the ground before he heard hissing signifying that he was healing somewhat. Naruto growled as he stood back up, keeping his eyes locked on Kimimaro. He decided to go on the attack this time, but every time he took a swing at Kimimaro, he ended up getting a lash on his hands. Eventually, Naruto roared as he went for a heavy overhead swing, but a strike from Kimimaro's whip sent it out into the distance far from the point of any kind of retrieval. Kimimaro backed off and began whipping Naruto, cutting into his body and drawing blood with every shot. He struck Naruto across his chest, his back, his arms. Wherever he could hit Naruto cleanly, he did hit Naruto. After an endless barrage of strikes from the whip of his enemy, Naruto dropped to the ground, shaking in pain, as blood fell from his body to the grass below, staining the green blades red. His shirt was in tatters and was utterly unwearable any longer. Kimimaro wrapped his chain staff around Naruto's arm and jerked him forward, dragging him across the ground on his left side. Naruto eventually regained his footing and Kimimaro's eyes widened as he saw what had been hidden in Naruto's left hand. But he had given Naruto too much momentum, and by now Naruto had a full running start heading his way. Thrusting out his left hand that had a threatening blue sphere spinning in the palm, Naruto shouted out the name of his attack at the top of his lungs as he slammed it into Kimimaro's body. "Rasengan, you son of a bitch!" As the jutsu drilled into Kimimaro's body, flesh visibly flew from the point of contact. The force from the attack sent Kimimaro flying away at a high velocity, pulling the whip with him as it pulled itself from Naruto's arm, taking yet another bite out of Naruto's already heavily wounded body. Naruto fell to the ground, clutching his bloody arm before he started crawling towards the direction that Kimimaro flew in, trying to confirm his kill. What an incredibly destructive ninjutsu. If I had not grown a layer of bone underneath my skin, that most certainly would have ended our battle. Naruto saw Kimimaro standing and walking over to him from the far distance that he had been sent. Where Naruto hit him in the body, there was the area where Naruto ripped through his skin. A spherical circle of brown, and within there was a visible film of white with a spiral groove carved deeply into it, with blood slightly seeping through the cracks that the mark formed. The bone he had been talking about. Naruto punched the ground hard with his injured arm and stood up again. "Just fucking die already, goddammit! I should have killed you 4 times already and you're fucking standing like a goddamn zombie. I hit you dead on. I heard it. I felt it. I heard and felt the fucking Rasengan grinding into you. That was a kill shot. You should be split in half. Fuck a Keki Genkai. That shit isn't right." Naruto was using as much of the Kyuubi's chakra as he safely could, and Kimimaro was outclassing him. It wasn't that Naruto didn't have what it took to go up against him in his second level form. It was the fact that Kimimaro seemingly had 9 lives or something, because the dead bone pulse kept Kimimaro from taking the brunt of Naruto's attack damage. He couldn't cut through his bones, he couldn't slip a weapon through the ribs for a stab at his organs. Hell, he couldn't even crush him with enough pressure to bend iron because Kimimaro could just manipulate his skeletal frame to protect his vital points. Naruto sighed and picked up a taijutsu stance once again to attack. "How the fuck can I kill him? He just keeps coming. I know I'm hurting him. I have to be. Every attack I'm landing would leave anyone else in critical condition if not kill them outright." Naruto didn't have time to ponder too much as Kimimaro brought his whip back out and began attacking again. Naruto did his best to avoid getting anywhere near the bony barbs of the weapon, but Kimimaro kept picking up the pace of his attacks and hit Naruto in his legs, sending him to his knees. Kimimaro slung the weapon out once more, to wrap it around Naruto's body. It was stopped by a burst of sand that squeezed between the whip, and protected Naruto from further harm. Even more sand then appeared and came at Kimimaro, who jumped back and put distance between himself and Naruto. A smile broke out onto Naruto's face as he felt the familiar presence of his desert friend. "Hey Gaara, what's up?" Gaara slowly walked up to Naruto, who was still on his knees, and stared out at Kimimaro. "Nothing." Gaara was suddenly surprised by a bloody Naruto wrapping Gaara in a hug. "I'm glad to see you. I thought I wouldn't get a chance to go after Sasuke. What are you doing here anyway?" He shrugged Naruto off of him after a moment. "My siblings and I were requested by your Hokage to assist a retrieval team for Sasuke Uchiha. Are you having trouble with this one, Uzumaki?" Naruto was relishing this moment of reprieve from combat due to his injuries, and talking with Gaara was allowing him time to heal and regain some energy. "Great. Now someone can go back up Rock Lee. I sent him to chase after Sasuke before he could get away. I need you to go help him out." Surprise was not evident on Gaara's face except for the raised eyebrow. "Are you not having trouble with your opponent?" Pulling off the remains of his tattered red shirt, Naruto chuckled lowly. "Yes, but this is a duel, Gaara. I don't get all out of shape about this kind of thing often in a fight, but I need to beat this guy myself to get some peace with myself. Just go and help Lee. I'll be fine." Gaara looked at Naruto for a moment as the smile left Naruto's face and his stare turned chilly. "I wasn't really asking you, Gaara. Either you go after Lee and let me finish this, or I'll kick your ass off into the woods until you can't even see the field anymore. And you know damn well I'm capable of that." Gaara stared back until he stepped back and ran off towards the border. "I will go, Uzumaki, but you had better not lose." Naruto waved over his shoulder as Gaara left the area. Kimimaro strode forward, swishing his tail. "That was honorable of you to elect to continue our battle one-on-one in order to keep your comrade alive and safe from my wrath. I will make your death as honorable as I can for trash such as you." Naruto grinned at Kimimaro evilly. "I didn't make him leave because I thought he would die fighting you. Hell, I won't die fighting you because you can't kill me. I made Gaara leave because while I am fully capable of killing you here, it's going to cause me to go a little overboard. And I don't need too many witnesses for this. I catch enough crap without people knowing I can do this." The Kyuubi stopped focusing on Naruto's fight when he realized what Naruto was going to do. "Kid, no! Wait! Your body isn't sturdy enough to handle the stress that it will cause you. You don't even have enough of your own energy and chakra to attempt it." Naruto didn't answer, instead choosing to undo the bag on his waist and empty its contents into his hand, grin still in place. In the palm of his blood-stained hand were 3 soldier pills. Naruto looked at Kimimaro defiantly and popped all 3 at once. After a second, Naruto began to twitch as the veins on his head began to pulsate. Kimimaro was curious as to what Naruto was doing at this moment. All of those pills would require an immediate outlet for his chakra, or else he would die within less than 5 minutes. Naruto expelled as much of his chakra as he could, enveloping his body in an aura of blue. He then channeled as much of the Kyuubi's chakra as his body could handle generating at one moment. The red glow from his body raised up high into the sky. As suddenly as it was all expelled, it was all sucked right back into Naruto's body. It didn't dissipate, it didn't fade away as if he had just stopped using it, no. He sucked it back into his body. You could literally see the chakra entering through his pores, turning his skin the color of an angry red, as if his entire body was irritated greatly. Naruto fell to his knees as he began scratching at his skin, and screaming in pain as a vulpine snout began extending from his face while he gritted his teeth, now becoming fangs. Naruto's ears retracted into his head and reappeared on top as his hair turned red. His pores, which were still wide from absorbing so much chakra, began to quickly sprout red hair from them, covering his body in fur. Naruto's muscle mass increased to an added 1/2 of what it already was, pumping him up considerably. His claws extended even more than they already were. Naruto's spine pushed downward out of his pants and skin, and split into 2 before muscle and skin grew over both segments, followed by more fur to make bushy, white-tipped foxtails. In the end, he looked like a werewolf, only as a fox instead of a wolf. Naruto was kneeled over on the ground, panting heavily following the violent transformation. He slowly rose to his feet, looking at Kimimaro with pupil-less glowing red eyes with one black slit in the middle. Naruto chuckled painfully in a warped voice. Wow. Ugh. I didn't think it would hurt that much. I guess Kyuubi was right, my body can't take this transformation yet. I'm glad I didn't try the real one, just the bastardized version. Kimimaro tried to make heads or tails of what he had just seen. It looked like a level 2 cursed seal transformation, only it looked natural. The transformations of the cursed seal were entirely generated by the dark, tainted, impure enzymes that the seal always had pumping throughout the user's body. Going with the feelings and suggestions that the enzymes would invariably provide you with made you mentally weak, but it was like a drug. Fighting what the seal gave you, however, could hurt you, as Anko Mitarashi could definitely attest to. But still, it was all an artificial amplifier. What Kimimaro had just seen Naruto do had not felt dark or unnatural at all. It felt like it was supposed to happen. The only time throughout the entire sequence of events that he felt hate and bloodlust and darkness was when Naruto flared the oppressive red chakra that he then absorbed. From that point, it was like watching a natural metamorphosis. He was absolutely amazed. What are you? Naruto scratched his head sheepishly. I'm whatever you want to call me. It doesn't matter because you're going to die here all the same anyway, so for the next few moments you can call me what you'd like. His fox-like grin that was on his human visage chilled Kimimaro as it showed on his true fox-like features. But for the sake of me separating myself from you cursed seal assholes, I guess you can call this the Kitsune trigger. Naruto flexed his claws and tested his tails out, smiling as he easily manipulated them. Alright, enough chit-chat, you've seen one of my trump cards and now you must die. Naruto vanished. There was no blur. There was no streak of red. There was only an afterimage that simply faded out of existence. He left no trace of his former presence there. No broken grass, no sound of footsteps, nothing. Kimimaro's eyes were darting all about as he whipped his body all around. There was no way that there was someone that was that fast enough to reveal nothing. Well, he kept that theory right until he ended up taking slashes across his body that cut through the skin and muscle straight to his bones. He recoiled from his deep cuts and ended up getting cracked directly in the face, and Kimimaro couldn't even tell you what had just hit him. A fist? A shin? A knee? An elbow? What? The impact of the attack sent Kimimaro rolling back like a rag doll. He stood and spun around rapidly with his arms out. As he gained speed, he let off an endless amount of bullets from his fingers. All around him, the field was littered with misfired bones that he was letting off like shells from a mounted machine gun. Kimimaro was stopped when his legs were taken out from under him, sending him head over heels to the ground. He jumped back up to his feet. What the hell are you? Your executioner. Kimimaro didn't have time to turn and faced the voice in his ear before his arms were grabbed from behind and jerked out of the socket as Naruto had just jumped over him from behind while holding his arms and landing in front of. Naruto leaned far forward, using Kimimaro's weight to keep him grounded, and started smashing savage single-leg mule kicks into Kimimaro's torso, as if he were trying to rip his arms off of his body. Naruto then jumped off of the ground and planted a vicious twin-legged double mule kick to Kimimaro's face, letting go of his arms at the same time, sending him flying off backwards. Naruto looked at Kimimaro, whose arms were backwards at his sides. Fix that, you bitch. Kimimaro simply rotated his arms with a sick crackling noise until they were back in place. Naruto's sweat dropped. I didn't really mean to it. Naruto then vanished again, and hit Kimimaro again and again. He couldn't see Naruto's attacks, but they couldn't kill him. It was the ultimate conundrum of combat. Kimimaro couldn't hit Naruto to save his life at this point, but on the flip side, Naruto couldn't end the fight himself. Naruto was too fast to be caught by anything Kimimaro could do, and was utterly battering him in addition to him having an almost inexhaustible battery at his disposal. But he couldn't fucking kill Kimimaro. It always came back to that. He would not die. It was the embodiment of the unstoppable force meeting the immovable object, and the fight just would not end. Naruto was getting sick and tired of Kimimaro getting up from everything he did and just walking forward to try again. After knocking Kimimaro down again, Naruto began jumping on Kimimaro's back like a trampoline, savagely flattening him deeply into his own body-shaped crater that was getting deeper and deeper. Why won't you just fucking die? Die! Die! Naruto jumped high into the air and landed as hard as he could with his knees into Kimimaro's spine. He scoffed to himself as he knew he would just get right back up. Naruto crouched down on Kimimaro's back as low as he could muster, and jumped with all of his might into the air, intent on eradicating the last of the Shikotsumiyaku bloodline. Kid, what Kyuubi? Can't you say I'm getting my kill on here? Naruto was still rising into the air as he spoke, with eyes locked on Kimimaro set to crush him like an ant. Kyuubi roared from inside Naruto's head. Listen, you whelp! You directly went against me once already when you used the Kitsune trigger. You will listen to me now. Naruto kept his ascent into the sky, as he was now getting stuck in the clouds. Hell, he could see the Valley of the End from where he was. Your body is breaking down. You weren't properly conditioned to use this form yet, as you already knew before you did it. You need to end this. Now. Use the Amari, menacing ball. Naruto would have slapped himself if it wouldn't have looked silly for a humanoid fox hanging almost 300 feet in the air to slap himself. Why the fuck didn't I do that from the start? He ain't gonna get up from that. Naruto channeled raw demonic chakra in his hands and formed a sphere before consuming it. Yuck. I forgot this chakra tastes like crap. Naruto yipped loudly as he fired a beam from his mouth. Instead of a ball, that just ended up hiking him even higher into the air as it careened down at Kimimaro, who was stuck inside of his body-sized crater. As it hit Kimimaro, it vaporized the entire landscape around the point of impact in a hellacious explosion that rocked the earth and sent debris and other things high into the air with a horrible sound. Konoha, Hokage Tower. Tsunade was sitting in her office with a bottle of sake while massaging her temple. This job is going to kill me one of these days. Boom! The entire tower shook with earthquake-like force as Tsunade fell from her seat onto the ground. Everything on her shelves and on her desk shook and fell to the floor from the force of the tremor. As quickly as it came, it passed, and she shot to her feet to look out of the window on the ruckus that it caused throughout the village. People on the ground, windows broken, potted plants littering the sides of the streets. Tsunade listened to all of the panic. What the hell was that? Gates of Konoha, Temari, Shikamaru, and Choji hit the ground and covered up the second the tremors hit. Tayuya had fear in her eyes as she was still bound and utterly helpless. As the bout passed, Temari voiced the thoughts of all of them. What the hell was that? Forests around Konoha. Neji rubbed his head as he had fallen out of the tree he was jumping from during the shockwave. Neji looked up to Kankuro, who had latched onto the tree branch he was on like a sloth to avoid falling. Is everyone all right? Kankuro let go of the tree and landed on the ground. What the hell was that? What happened? They both turned around to see Kuro Ari upturned and heard Kiba beating on it from the inside. Why did I land on my head? Shit. I'm bleeding again. Naruto drifted down to the ground easily with the use of his tails as a propeller. Upon landing, he grabbed his tails and rubbed them. God, what a workout. My tails are gassed. Naruto then looked around at the destruction from his attack. He was standing in the middle of a crater that was 3 miles wide, right on top of a pile of ashes that he kicked around. I got you this time, you dirty bastard. Naruto gestured to the wreckage that he created. Regrow that motherfucker. A second tremor happened that was smaller than Naruto's. Not that he was on the ground to feel the first one, but it shook him up. Naruto's eyes widened as he heard the voice of a dead man. Dance of the seedling fern. A forest of bones jutted from the ground suddenly, catching Naruto off guard. The jutsu filled all of the immediate area with sharp bones that extended high into the air. Yip, no. Naruto was slowly hovering down from the air, tail spinning furiously to slow his descent as he again jumped high into the air to dodge the death trap that Kimimaro had set out for him. Naruto eventually latched onto one of the bones that stuck out higher than the others. Damn, this is one hell of a suicide jutsu. But too bad, sucker! You missed? Kimimaro then suddenly emerged half of his body from the bone Naruto was attached to with a bone drill around his arm. His skin was missing and seared off on multiple areas of his body, revealing muscle and parts of his skeleton. Time slowed down as Kimimaro thrusted his bone drill at Naruto. Die! I will not lose for the sake of Orochimaru-sama! Kimimaro drilled into Naruto before he burst into smoke as a broken ninjato dropped from where Kimimaro had made contact. Naruto was nowhere to be found. Kimimaro's eyes quivered as tears came to the forefront. Blood seeped from his mouth and he slumped over lifelessly. Blood and tears fell into the forest of bones as Kimimaro left the world of the living with one regret. He could not finish off Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto sat on the outskirts of the bone forest, panting in relief. Oh, Kami. That was close. I love that sword so much. I need to come back and get it. Kawarimi is amazing. Naruto sighed and let his Fox features from Kitsune trigger recede. Naruto began to walk away before he collapsed to the ground in pain. Gah! What happened? Why am I in pain? His questions were answered by the Kyuubi. I told you that your body wasn't ready to use the trigger again, and this is the result of your ignorance. Prolonged use of the Kitsune trigger has cracked every single bone in your entire body. That's what you get for using a technique you weren't ready to utilize, and you pretty much almost overdosed on soldier pills. Naruto laid out on the ground, twitching occasionally from the pain of his entire body. I'm aware of that now. And I have to say, after considering everything that just happened, a smile came on his face. It was totally worth it. Uzumaki. Naruto's vision was filled with a red-headed Jinchuriki standing over him. Did you win? Naruto gave him a dry look. Does it look like I lost? Or does the graveyard of bones with the motionless body of the team I was fighting stuck inside one of them signify that he kicked my ass and killed me? A mouthful of sand was given to Naruto as a reply, who painfully rolled over and spit it all out. Gross! You fucking crush people with that shit. Naruto noticed Rock Lee's body held by Gaara's sand. Is he? No. Gaara used his sand to help Naruto stand up to get a better look. Lee had scrapes and bruises on his face. His spandex suit had holes in it around his shoulder that had sealed itself up from the Chidori. He was still breathing clearly, though. He is still very alive. The Uchiha defeated him, but not without a massive fight from the looks of where they did battle. I believe he even used the technique that he used on me during our fight to match power with the Uchiha. Naruto punched his own palm, ignoring the pain for the time being. Fuck. I'm sorry, Lee. I just couldn't finish my opponent off to help you fast enough. He turned to Gaara. Come on, let's go back to Konoha. We both need some hospital time. Gaara helped up in the same manner as he assisted Lee and leapt off for Konoha. Kakashi stood still at the Valley of the End. A Konoha Hite-ete was at his feet with Sasuke's scent washed from it by the rainfall. He looked past the statue of Madara Uchiha towards the border of the country. I failed again. And that's it for the video. Until next time. Later.